This is the Big Friendly Swim Podcast, and I'm the Big Friendly host. And today's guest is a graduate from Ohio State and just recently finished up grad school at UCLA.
Yes.
Aislinn Walsh, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to kick things off, take me through like some of your favorite memories from your 4 years at Ohio State, and like what was the deciding factor for you in that initial commitment to swim there?
Yeah, so definitely I would say being a year out now from that, like I've had a lot of time to reflect on the past 4 years, which I think kind of in the moment it's really hard to be super, super grateful for all the good times because, you know, like college swimming is so hard, especially at one of those big universities. So majority of the time I kind of was in survival mode, kind of trying to just get through it. But the most rewarding things were like, we won Big Tens every single year that I was there. And something that I really loved about that was that nobody ever seemed to like see it coming. And it was more of like, we were just trying to prove to everybody that like, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep winning Big Tens. And people kept denying that we were going to like do it again. Like, I think there was one year that they had a 4%, like someone put out, there was like a 4% chance we were going to win again after being like the reigning champs for like 2 years in a row or something. But we just kept proving people wrong, and it's so heartbreaking, you know, that streak came to an end. But I wasn't there for that, so in that way, it's like, you know, sometimes those things happen. But what got me there originally was I'm from a small town, northern Indiana / Niles, Michigan. So I lived on the state line of the two, Indiana and Michigan. But big Notre Dame fan growing up, and my dad swam there. That was kind of like something I wanted to follow in his footsteps, potentially go to Notre Dame, swim for Notre Dame. I just didn't really want to be close to home anymore. And like, I had grown up swimming in that pool, so I was like, it's time for me to get out. And that head coach at the time, Mike Litzinger, happened to be best friends with Bill Dorencott at Ohio State. So he kind of directed me towards that way. So I reached out to them and went and looked down there and ended up just really loving it. I had a great connection with a coach named Jordan Wolfram, who is now the head coach at UCLA, which is why when I was done with Ohio State, I ended up looking there. But she was awesome, like really, really strong female figure in college swimming, and that was something that I really wanted in my college career. So she was a big impact, and she ended up leaving before my class even got there. Despite she had a great, they had a great replacement for her, which was Dorsey Tierney-Walker, who was there, I think, my freshman, sophomore, junior year of college. She was mainly my coach for 2 or 3 years that she was there, I think, as well. Super, super awesome person. But yeah, that was my little Ohio State brief, and that's how I got there. A little touch on how I got to UCLA as well. Yeah.
Was I like, if memory serves, was Big Tens, was it split by gender or was it combined?
It was split by gender, yeah, every year. It's one of the, I don't think there's very many that do it anymore combined.
Yeah, I don't think there's very many either. I think it was just Pac-12s was the only other big one that did it. But I know like SECs is combined. I think Big 12s were combined. I've lost track of where all the conferences are going now.
Yeah.
Because I think there's like 2 of them are gone and they're making new ones, and so I've lost track of.
I know. Well, it's crazy. I was at the last Pac-12. So it was my first and everyone's last Pac-12s this past year, which was pretty cool. Nothing compared to Big Tens, though. It was a little underwhelming, I'd say, compared to Big Tens. Big Tens is crazy with just the hype around it and everything.
So what brought you over to UCLA after graduating from OSU?
So like I said, Jordan Wolfram was the person who recruited me to Ohio State. And then before my freshman year at Ohio State, she took a head coaching job at UCLA. And I never had any underlying desire to ever go to California or to like go that far from home. I've always been someone who's such a homebody. And even like Ohio State was pushing it for me. Like that was pretty far. It was 5 hours, 4 hours away. But it seemed just like an opportunity that I had to take advantage of at the time. Because COVID took so much away from us, but it also gave everybody this year back. And, you know, I didn't see myself being happy or growing anymore if I were to stay in the same place. And so when I was looking around, like I was starting to actually have a pretty good season that year. I hadn't swam very well majority of my career at Ohio State. And starting to do well again, I was like, maybe I want to keep going. And so I entered the portal, I reached out to Jordan from UCLA. And she was just like, yeah, come out for a visit. Like, it'll be a quick weekend. And like everybody who visits LA, Hollywood, whatever, like, I absolutely fell in love with that place. And I was like, this is where I want to be forever. And, you know, I think differently now, but definitely was like one of the best years of my life. Like, that master's program was incredible. It was in a Master of Education with like emphasis on coaching and leadership and stuff like that. 100% athletes in that program. With a pick few in there, there's a couple of people who weren't an athlete, but majority was just UCLA athletes. Like, it was so much fun. And for me to actually have like enjoyed school, I have multiple learning disabilities. Like, I'm dyslexic, partially deaf, ADHD. I have all the things that make school not work out in my favor. So for me to say that, you know, a school like UCLA actually was like fun for me and not incredibly like hard, because that's a really hard school for a lot of people. It was just awesome. Like, honestly, it was just so exciting, and I enjoyed swimming. We'd swim outside. I didn't swim that well at the end of the year, but like, that wasn't really like my purpose in going there. It was kind of just to use swimming as the avenue. And thankfully, you know, it got me there. It got me another degree, and yeah, it was awesome.
You know, I think like living 5 hours from LA kind of like it diluted it for me a bit, but every time I've gone down there, I still find like new cool things to do. Like, when I went down for like Golden Goggles in 2023, I think I went down, stayed at a hotel for a night, came back the next day. Sorry. And I found this like whole farmer's market that was there like every day.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I just spent like 3 hours exploring. So LA, you can get lost in that city.
Yeah.
Of just exploring everything there.
You know, it's really fun when you're like able to do stuff like that, but I have like chronic back pain now from how long I've sat in the car just like being in there, because of the traffic situation is literally, and everybody talks about it, but it's actually like,
oh, it's awful.
Worse than it sounds. Yeah, like people think it's bad, and I was like, it's not going to be that bad. Like, it's like so bad.
I don't know what they're going to do for the Olympics.
I don't know. We talked about that in one of my classes as well, and they said they're going to try and make, like, there's a road called Olympic Boulevard that like runs, you know, through a majority of the city, which was created for the last Olympics that were there. And I just don't, like, they talked about making more, like, I don't know, like highways, and I don't know how that's going to happen in 4 years, but like, it would shock me that they're going to have, you know, like, it's going to be like an hour commute and stuff for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, multiple hour commute.
I mean, I'm going to laugh so hard if the Olympics being in LA is the thing that finally convinces them to prioritize public transportation. Yeah. It's going to be really funny if that's the end result of that.
Yeah.
So, I remember, like, the emotions that came in for me, like, my last collegiate race, and the feelings I had. I wear those, like, goofy-looking Swedish goggles.
Yeah.
And my coach had always made fun of them, so I bought him a pair just to, like, mess with him. And I had, like, a whole thing ready to say, and I just held them up and, like, weakly said, like, these are for you, and started sobbing on the spot. That was what happened to me after my last collegiate swim, but I'm wondering if you can describe the flood of emotions that rushed in for you, and what were you thinking after you, like, touched the wall in that last collegiate race?
Yeah, so I am an unbelievably emotional person, so you can imagine how that would have gone over. But it was more so, like, before that I was emotional about it, and not really after. But, like, I started swimming when I was, like, 6 years old, so it is a long time. I'm 24 now. And I think before, it was a 2-fly, which is, I would consider one of my best events, but with the season I was having, I was just like, I'm so ready to get this over with. I don't even care how it goes. But it was just like, I could have gone the worst time I've ever gone in my life, and I still would have been happy about it. And I was so unhappy with the time, but like just the fact that it was happening and it was like, this is it. I was like, that's perfectly fine. But beforehand, I just kind of like sat with my cap and was like, this is the last time I'm ever gonna do this, and it's gonna like really matter. Because I've swam a little bit since I've been done, just for fun and just because I can, and it's exciting, and there's nothing special about it anymore, really. But like, it was just like a special moment, and I think that specific moment I can like replay it in my head, and I'll remember that forever. I don't remember the race at all. I don't remember any detail of it. All I remember is that I was next to one of my teammates it was also her last race. So her name is Crystal Murphy from UCLA. So the fact that we got to do that
I
together,
think I swam club with her.
yeah,
Not
she's
like
from
with her,
UCLA.
but like I swam at meets with her. Like I remember that name.
Yeah, Crystal. But it was just fun. Like, she was a senior, so it was also her last race too, and we just had trained so much together. We had gone through so much together, and she had a rough couple of years before because she had, I think, a shoulder injury. So it was just a really big moment for both of us, and she had always been super supportive of me. So it was just exciting that we hit the wall together. We basically went almost the same time, and then we got to celebrate that with each other, and then go back to the team, and everyone was just like, excited for all of us. So I think that's like probably one of my most favorite memories was my last swim, because it was done. I was so excited to be done. I was so ready for it. Like, I love swimming, but at the same time, there is only so much someone can take. And 5 years in college athletics is more than enough. Like, I was so ready to do it. But yeah, it was awesome.
So I swam for a community college, and in California community colleges are different than the rest of the country. We only get 2 years of eligibility. But what COVID did for me was it gave me an extra 2 years. So I ended up basically getting a full 4 years of like NCAA swimming. And my last swim was also a 200 butterfly. And I was swimming in the B final, and my best friend was swimming in the same lane in the A final. So he swam first, and I remember it being like, it kind of hit me in the moment that I was like getting up for my last swim, and it was a nice, comforting thing to have like a familiar face looking up at me right from the pool as I'm kneeling down. I don't even remember the time. I don't remember like what I swam. I think I went like a 2:40, to be totally honest with you. But I just remember being so happy to just touch the wall and just be done.
Yeah.
Just not have to do another 200 butterfly.
Ever again. Yeah. I miss training for it. I don't miss doing it at all. And honestly, I feel like if I were to hop in and train for a couple months, I probably would do better than I would have ever done in college. So, I don't know. That's just my theory with it. But
See, I was a miler and a 400 IMer, and I would always do the 2 fly just because it would score points for the team.
Yeah.
But I hated training for it.
I was one of those where, like, I could swim probably aerobic butterfly better than aerobic freestyle. Like, I was so awful at aerobic freestyle. Like, every coach I've ever had always had something to say about how awful my freestyle was. And I could power through a 50, like, fine. But, like, in a practice, absolutely not. I would sneak my pool gear on sometimes and see if my Ohio State coaches would notice, and like they always would, but sometimes they'd like let her go. Like, it's better than dealing with her being mad about it. So yeah.
This is a fun question for you. Did you ever swim a 50 freestyle and do a butterfly?
Oh yeah.
Because I do that all the time.
Yeah. Honestly though, I was such an I don't know how to like word this in a way that sounds correct, but like my technique with everything in swimming, besides I was originally a breaststroker. I had been a breaststroker my whole life until my freshman year of college, but my technique was horrible. So like the majority of my swimming career was just based off of like a little bit of delusion and a little bit of talent and then muscle. truly, honestly, like, I worked extremely hard, but, like, there was no explanation. I think in a long course, 50 free, I was, like, 25 high, which was a decent time for me, and I just randomly done that one day, and any 50 freestyler would, like, look at me and hear me say this and be like, what's wrong with you? But I breathed, like, 7 or 8 times.
I mean, Bruno Fratos has been like 21-2 in the 50 free, and he breathed like every 5 strokes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not unheard of to breathe that often.
I know. And if I was one of those where I was like a jerk breather, I would literally throw my whole body around to do it. Yeah.
So that's same. Go ahead.
That was all I was going to say.
That same friend I mentioned earlier, he was the California Community College state champion in the 500 and the mile. Mm-hmm. And for the entirety of his swim career, he would swim with his arms crossing over and his legs would click together. He would not kick. He never kicked. Not a day in his life. And he went, I think, like 15:40 in the mile and like 4:25 in the 500.
That's fast.
It was insane. I'm like, how are you this fast? And you never kick?
It's crazy. Some people just have it, like, yeah.
I always joke to them, I'm like, dude, if you just fixed your legs, you would probably be like a D1 swimmer.
You know what's crazy about that, though, is, like, there's a lot of people, because I helped out SwimSwam with social media during the Olympics, so I would have never watched it that closely. I'm not one of those people who, like, really enjoys watching swimming that much. Like, I'm interested in the results, but not really, like, watching it. But having to actually watch it and, like, be up to date on what's going on, you see so many swimmers like that you're like, if they just fixed this, and, like, I mean, who am I to talk? But we all know the sport pretty well. But, like, I was one of those where someone told me to fix something in breaststroke, and that's why I ended up not ever doing breaststroke again, because it just ruined it. And I couldn't really get my rhythm back anymore, and, like, it's, like, crazy because some of those people, that just works for them, and if you change it, it ruins everything, you know?
I think that's what my coach probably thought, was like, it's working, he's going fast, we'll just let it happen.
Leave him alone, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, you've talked about how Rebecca Stoney has been an inspiration for you, and I guess that makes sense, like, being formerly a breaststroker.
Yeah.
But what were some of the ways, like, a young athlete, or even, like, in college, that she inspired you?
Yeah. So it's interesting now because I know she's a USC girl and I went to UCLA. I'm pretty sure that's right. So at the time, I think when I was in high school, when I was a breaststroker, I was like, it was one of those people that you just look up to because they were fast and, like, she had seemingly what a really good, like, stroke technique was, and she was just someone that I would watch videos of her swim to hype myself up. And it wasn't, she was a 200 breaststroker, and I was more of like a 100 to 50 breaststroker. But still, it was just like the fact that you could see a woman being, like, I think a 6-time Olympic medalist, something like that.
Yeah.
Just be so successful. And then she always had a smile on her face. And every time I would, like, see her talking in an interview or anything like that, like, she just seemed so happy to be there. And that was just something that always inspired me, not even because she was, like, so successful, but it was just because she was always so happy to be there. And I'm like, there are days where I literally don't want to be here, and I'm sure, knowing what I know now, she probably felt the same way a lot of times. But, like, yeah, it was just nice to have someone, a role model to look up to that was, like, someone I could idolize. And then looking back now, it's like, that was a good person to idolize because there's nothing bad that it's ever come out about her, you know? Not to say that there is about anybody, but, like, you always maybe regret sometimes, like, idolizing people because of things that they say or do online, but she was just a good role model, I think, and a just good inspiration for a young person to have.
When I swam club, whenever I'd be shaving down for meets, I would always put on, I don't know if you've ever seen them on YouTube, they have, like, the full, like, uncut footage from the 2012 London Olympics, and I would just put those on, and just I would always stop what I was doing to watch her 200 breaststroke when she was the first woman under 220. Like, that still is one of the coolest races ever to me.
Yeah.
Like, that time still holds up. I think it still would medal. Like, that event's gotten really fast, but I'm pretty sure that time would still medal at every Olympics since then.
Yeah, I think so. That's so cool.
So what's next for you from here? Like, what brought you home after UCLA?
Yeah, so I actually was planning on staying there post-college, and because I've been graduated for a couple months now. We graduated in June because UCLA does quarter system, so it's always super late. Been done swimming since March, but I had a couple of things lined up. Like, I had a job, a little part-time job. I mainly work remote right now for a couple of social media manager positions. And I kind of just got sick of it. Like, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm a very homebody person. And out of me and my siblings, like, I was always the person on the weekends in high school who didn't go out. I didn't really hang out with many people that much. Like, I was always at home, always close to home, and my siblings were always out and about doing whatever. And it was just ironic to me that I was the farthest one away out of all my siblings. And it kind of got to the point where I was like, if I want to go home, it's going to cost me $1,000. Which is not necessarily, like, it's not convenient. And I missed my family. I wanted to be around them. Like, parents are getting older, so, like, it would be nice to be close. And I didn't really want to be working 7 jobs just to stay in an environment that was as beautiful as it was. At the same time, like, it started to make me feel like I needed to be very materialistic. And being someone who's not from there and moving there and, like, seeing gas for $7 almost.
Yeah.
Literally $7 a gallon. Like, I can't believe that. But besides the point, like, it was just starting to get a little bit too much for me. And I think I would have liked somewhere more south, like probably like an Irvine or a San Diego, but, like, I didn't really want to feel the need to have a Prada bag every time I left the house because people would look at you funny. And it was one of those things where, like, one of the things that really just irked me about swimming in general, and this sounds kind of off because swimming is all about competing, but the second I'd be done in a race, I wouldn't feel the need to compete with anybody anymore. But what I didn't like about swimming all the time, college, like, I don't know, just mostly in college, but I felt like every person was competing for every single thing, no matter what. If it was not about swimming, it was like, oh, well, like, you're doing this weekend? Well, I'm not doing this. And then people would kind of make you feel bad about it because they're like, well, I'm going to be better than you because of it. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm just trying to live my life. Like, I'm really grounded in my spirituality and my faith. So, like, a lot of what I believe in is, like, there's a higher power that loves and cares for me no matter what I accomplish. And as long as I'm trying my best, it's going to be fine. And so I feel like that's not something that was really in LA. Like, people are always climbing on top of each other, trying to be more famous, like, more followers, have more money. And I was like, I'm not interested in this life. Like, if it's going to happen for me, it's going to happen for me, and that's going to be great. But, like, I don't feel the need to, like, fight with people about it, I was never someone to pick a fight and be like, oh, well, you have more followers. Like, I had a really nice time building my TikTok, building my Instagram while I was there. And I had a lot of younger female athletes from different swim teams reach out and ask, how I did that. And I was so happy to tell them how I did that. And, like, this is how you can get more connected with NIL. This is how you can, like, I don't know, manage your emotions around doing NIL and doing swimming and, like, all of the above. I was never someone to, like, gatekeep that. And I met so many people who were like, if you ask me how I am successful, I'm not going to help you because I don't want you to be more successful. Like, I frankly don't really care if someone's more successful. So that was kind of my thing of, like, I'm sick of this and I would like to just help people and move on with my life and not be torn down because of it. So next step, I'm just decompressing at home for a little bit. Potentially, don't think I'm going back to California, but just looking at some jobs. Because I work remote, I have the flexibility to kind of choose where I get to go next. But for now, I'm just hanging out with my parents and getting some free rent while I live in my childhood bedroom. But I think the next step would be I'm applying to a couple of fitness jobs in Indianapolis. I was born there. I am an Indiana girl, so I'm cool with that. It's a city, there's a lot to do, but it's not overwhelming, and it's not going to break my bank account to live there. So, yeah, I think that, and then long term, I would love to go live in Ireland. I'd love to go live in Florida. Very drastically different places, but Ireland, I was just there, and it felt less foreign than California did to me, or LA, I guess. Which is saying something. Like, it's a very overwhelming place out in LA, and Ireland's sick, and it's just something cool to do, something different. So, yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but there you go.
I mean, I'll tell you, living in California, I hate it here. I mean, gas is like $2 more than the national average. Everything is expensive. Like, I went to Indianapolis for 2 weeks for Olympic trials, and like the whiplash that I had of like people telling me like, oh yeah, gas is like $3.50 right now, and like that's that's expensive for us. Like, we've been complaining about it, and I'm like, cool. I just paid $5.99 per gallon like last week. But I mean, the food in Indianapolis was so much better. This is completely sidetracking. I went to this place called the Eagle, and I had a chicken sandwich that changed my life. I'm going back there for Golden Goggles in November, and I will be hitting that place up.
Oh, in Indy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But to touch on that, what you were saying of the people who had that mindset of like, oh, well, I'm successful, so I can't help you. Like, I shouldn't be helping you because then like you'll learn my secrets. Yeah. I've never understood that mindset. Like, obviously, I don't have a huge platform. Like, I have 600 something subscribers on YouTube and like 2,600 followers on Instagram. But I have had a few people reach out to me and be like, hey, what can I do? Like, how did you get started? Like, and I literally sent them paragraphs of like, this is what I did. This is why I love doing it. This is like what I recommend to you. And I've told anybody who's asked me, I'm like, if you start something, if you start a podcast or a blog or anything, tell me and I will promote it and I will post about it. Because like, I've just never understood that mindset of like, I'm successful and therefore nobody else can be.
Yeah, it's an ego thing, and it's frustrating because something that I learned from swimming was like, I could train as hard as somebody and they could get all of the reward and I could get nothing, and that's just the nature of the sport. But this is something that you actually can control, wherein like, if someone's really successful in swimming and I train next to her, I feel, I helped her out, I trained with her. And sometimes there are people that thank you for that. And I know, at least since I've been in the real world, I guess, reaching out to people for jobs, like trying to find connections, like nobody answers you. But every now and then there's someone that will answer and they want to help you. And so that's almost my way of like passing it forward, because we're such a negativity-based society now that it's like, if there's someone that can just break that a little bit, and promote some of like, this is how I'm going to help you, I don't want anything in return, that's just putting good out, and it's going to come back in some other way.
Yeah.
It's going to make that person happy, and it's going to help them out, and like, maybe they'll thank you for it one day, but if they don't, whatever. But at least it's like, you did what you could do. But it's just like, I mean, maybe it's more of like a woman thing where we are kind of designed to compete with each other nowadays, and people are so easily threatened, and it's sad, but it's also like kind of just how we've all been brought up. But yeah, I mean, I've struggled in a lot of friendships and stuff because of stuff like that, and it takes a lot of confidence to put yourself out there on media, whether it's like a podcast or if it's like TikTok or anything. So it's a lot to put yourself out there, and it's kind of emotionally damaging sometimes, and I don't think people understand that, but like, it's rewarding as well, so it's worth it.
I mean, I'll tell you, like, the first interview I did almost 4 years ago now, was with Tom Shields, and I was literally shaking on camera. Like I was nervous out of my mind, and oh my God. Hold on, I'm gonna take another cough drop. I strive for this balance with my interviews of professional unprofessionalism, where like I'm asking good questions and I'm like trying to make sure that like the quality of the interview is good, but I also make it as goofy as possible.
It's real. I make it real.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But I always, every time I see Tom now, I thank him because he recognized how nervous I was, and he sort of like took charge of the interview for like the first like 20 minutes, and like just got me comfortable without me even realizing it. And like without his interview, I never would have gotten the Nathan Adrian one that I did after that. And like he was the one who started that ball rolling when like I was a gaming channel. I had not done anything swimming related. So that was a perfect example of like somebody who didn't have to, just like taking a chance and like building somebody else up.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something else. I don't remember.
That's okay.
I was going to say something else, and it was like a good point, and I'm fully blanking. This was one I was excited to talk to you about because I don't know much about, I don't know what the right terminology is here, but like eating vegan. And this one was just interesting for me to ask you about. What are like some of the ways that you've maintained, like, obviously you need have a lot of nutritional value in what you eat, being a D1 athlete or just in life in general. But what were some of the ways that you maintained that nutritional value in your life after like switching to becoming vegan?
Yeah. So I struggled with food a lot my freshman year of college. And I wasn't happy with the way that my body looked. And also being around a lot of other people that kind of had a lot of negative self-talk at the time, it was a difficult situation to be in, which is why, I mean, there was a lot of sadness around COVID happening, and I don't ever mean to, like, disregard that, but I think if COVID didn't happen and, like, the shutdown didn't happen and I didn't get to go home for as long as I did after my freshman year, I either would have quit swimming or I don't know, like, where I would have gone down mental health-wise, but, like, that time saved me in so many ways because I got to go home and just, like, figure myself out and figure my life out and, like, what I wanted to do. I didn't even think I was going to go back to Ohio State or to even swimming after that year. And in that time, I was like, okay, this is every female, for the most part, maybe men as well, but, like, almost every female swimmer's nightmare is, like, we've never not swam this long in our lives. How are we going to be fit without swimming? And that's something that, in my next step in life now that I'm also going to implement. I'm getting certified in some fitness things, and I'll have the credibility to back me up on this. But a lot of people, when they stop swimming in any time, even if it's just like if you have your 2-week break at the end of every year, people freak out and they're like, how am I going to stay fit? I don't feel good, even though from a physical standpoint, nothing's really changing. Like, you just feel different. And as swimmers, we're so used to fueling so much because we burn so many calories that you need to fuel. You need to just eat. And when you're not swimming, that can be a little bit scary for some people. So my point in COVID was, I'm not happy with how I look right now. I don't feel good. I'm not, performing well. So I need to get myself in control somehow. So I made this food page. My nickname is AZ. So my friends call me AZ sometimes, but it rhymes with crazy. So I'm obsessed with coffee, and I was like, crazy cup of coffee. Great. That's my food page. I don't really use it anymore just because I've kind of transitioned into other things, but I would love to, like, implement that in my content again. But the whole purpose of it was to, one, hold myself accountable for eating healthy, like working out, and just like being in control of that again. Because in college it's hard when you have dining hall food and no one's telling you what to do anymore. And I was like, well, maybe if I post my recipes and I post some healthy dessert recipes that don't make people feel bad, everything's guilt-free. It's like, it didn't start out as a vegan thing. But my sister has celiac. My dad had colon cancer. I think he also has celiac. So my family has a lot of like dietary restrictions. And I've always been a lactose intolerant person. Like I can't have dairy. So like including all of that, I just made this big page and it started to kind of do well. Like some of my friends, some of my mom's friends were like, this is awesome. Like I've been making her recipes and it's like, they're good and I don't feel bad about it. Like great. I watched this documentary during that year called The Game Changers on Netflix, and it's about a football team who they made eat vegan, and they showed all the like blood samples and stuff, and it was supposed to have better endurance as an athlete. And I was like, done. I swam like terribly in my freshman year, so I'll do anything. So I just tried that, going fully vegan, just one random day, and I've pretty much been like that. I was like that fully vegan for like 3 years, I think, and now I eat fish sometimes, I eat eggs sometimes. I don't really restrict myself anymore, because it was started out really, really great like that, just fully vegan. Like I was the most happy I've ever been with my body. Like I felt really in control and I felt productive and it was great. And then I kind of started to feel like I need more protein and I don't want to eat more because that's painful. At that time, it was pretty painful. Vegan food's low calorie, so like you can only imagine if you're working out 5 hours a day how that like plays out. So I started to just kind of like introduce things back in, and then that also kind of gave like other people who were following along with it like the okay to be like you don't have to do one thing to look a certain way, whatever. So yeah, I mean that's like another long-winded answer, I guess, but. It's like, it was cool because no one really hears about vegan athletes, and when I tell people now that I don't eat just meat in general, they're like, well, how are you building muscle? And I'm like, majority of the thing, like a cow eats grass. Like, how do you think that cow got that strong? It's eating grass. So like, you might as well just start from the source, eat the grass. I don't know, like, not actually, but, yeah, that's my spiel of how that happened, and I still don't eat meat today. Maybe one day I'll try again, but for now, I'm not really interested in doing it. And now I'm working out and eating for aesthetic and not really for, like, a sport. So, yeah.
I traveled to Dubai earlier this year because my older brother is working down there. But it was shocking to me the difference in the quality of food that I was eating. Like, I mean, I made it a thing of, like, I wanted to go try the international fast food places. So I went and tried, like, KFC. And first of all, I got a chicken sandwich, fries, like, popcorn chicken, a drink, and, like, I think I got, like, some fried chicken from my mom. And it was all about, like, $10. And here that cost me, like, $40.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm like slowly dying, but we're good, we're chilling. But it struck me that like both the quality of the food that I was eating felt better, and the way I felt afterwards felt better.
Right.
I think like living in the U.S. has shown me like how bad the food we're consuming is, and how much of an impact that can have on our bodies.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me, like, how difficult it is to find unprocessed foods, and how difficult it is to find unprocessed foods that aren't, like, 50% or 100% more expensive than, like, the cheaper stuff that's not as good for you.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's really interesting to me. Like, while I was, like, reading about you on, like, the UCLA, on your UCLA page, I saw that. I'm like, that'd be a neat thing to bring up. But that's really interesting to me because, like, I honestly think if fried chicken didn't exist, I wouldn't need to eat meat at all.
Well, that's the beauty of it, and that's, like, what I would love to create a program using, like, the social media and stuff that I've built up. I would love to create a program that's for people post-athletics, or even just post-college, whatever, that's, like, a little bit of just mentoring on, like, food and I've been working out and like how to just navigate that because it can be kind of hard. And like that's one of the things, like if you want to eat vegan 5 out of 7 days a week, lovely. Like it's so frustrating when someone's like, "Oh, you're vegan?" And I'm like, "Yes, well sometimes I eat fish." So they're like, "Oh, you're pescatarian." And I'm like, "No, because I can't eat dairy or eggs and those are included in that umbrella." So it's just like I just do what I want at this point. And if people want to like get upset about what label I decide to put on it, like it's fine. I don't know.
Honestly, I think that would like take off because like, I mean, speaking for myself, like after I finished college, like trying to figure out what to eat and eating less because I was eating more when I was swimming was hard. And I mean, even athletes up to like the Olympic level have talked about how difficult that transition is going from like being the highest level athlete practicing like 70,000 yards a week to like going to an accounting job.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've been struggling with is like, I don't really want a full-time job. I've been working a full-time job for 18 years with swimming. Like, I don't want to be sitting at a desk from 9 to 5 right now, but so you just got to do it. Like, that's what they do. So.
I mean, I think that's something that like even like non-athletes are feeling right now. Like nobody really wants to be working a 9 to 5 job and just like sitting at a desk all day. Like I was formerly a biochemistry major, and it always struck people as odd because, like, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm a very loud person, and I'm a very, like, extroverted person. So people were always so confused. They're like, why do you want a career path where you're going to be, like, sitting alone at a desk, like, doing labs all day? And then COVID hit, and I made a hard turn into journalism, but...
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Makes sense. Well, and also, like, if someone is going from the transition of, like, Olympic level athlete to now they're like, well, I'm done and I'm in the real world, like, what am I going to do? Because everyone's going to get to that point in their life.
Yeah.
I think something that I really, really love, which is why I want to go down the fitness path, when I would go, and when I'm from, like, in South Bend, Indiana, there's next to nothing in terms of workout classes. But in a place like LA, like in big cities, like sometimes if you just go to a really good workout class, it sets the tone for your entire day. And because of like, even if you're not an athlete, but majority for athletes, like if you have a good practice, you're in a great mood that whole day. If you have a bad practice, like that day sucks. The rest of the day sucks. Like same thing with like a bad race, like it makes the whole day awful. So if you start your day with an incredible workout and like you feel good and you're happy, I would sit at a 9 to 5 and I'm like, I can carry that momentum the rest of my day and I'm chilling. Like that's what I think a lot of people struggle to find because they're like, well, I need to work out by myself. But like the only thing we've ever known is just like structure. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like even like my dad, he's not working out every day, but we used to live about an hour away from his current job, and he would be commuting 5 days a week, an hour there and like an hour plus back. And eventually when we moved up here to Livermore, he now is 10 minutes away, and his job has offered him a structure where if he works like, I think it's an additional hour every day, he has Fridays off. So he has every Friday off. So he's working 4 days on, 3 days off. And I think like the turnaround is night and day compared to when we were living in San Jose and he'd be home at like 8 o'clock at night. It's like now he can pop over for lunch if he wants to, or he can like, it's crazy how simple things like that can completely turn around your life, like just at the snap of a finger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So this was another fun one that I wanted to ask you about. At my high school, track and swimming ran at the same time. So we had a few crazy athletes who would do both. Who would like literally I think it was my junior year. Somebody like ran like, I don't know the track distances, the 100 meter. I don't know track at all. But they did their track event and they came back and like anchored their 4x100 free relay.
That's crazy.
So I'm wondering if you can talk about like running track and swimming in high school and how you think those complemented each other at all.
I think, first of all, it helped me not burn out in high school from swimming because track was just like on the back burner. It wasn't ever going to be like the main thing for me. But I ran a 6-minute flat mile when I was 12 years old, which is pretty respectable, especially for a 12-year-old.
It's faster than I ever went.
My dad swam in college, my mom ran in college, so like it was kind of just in my gene pool to like do both. But what's interesting was I was a distance runner. Like mile, if you consider that distance in running, but that, and then I was a sprinter in swimming. But I think what helped me in that was like, I can't remember, I remember a lot of my races, like swimming, but I can't remember a race in high school where I couldn't finish the race. Like I was so well off, like in a cardiovascular standpoint, like because my legs were so strong and they were so fit because of running. So I know a lot of people in college were kind of like against that. Like they were like, no running, like you're already doing aerobic free. And I'm like, but you can reach your aerobic capacity a lot better on land than you can in the water. That's why we would do air bikes at Ohio State, because you could reach your aerobic capacity. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Like, I'm trying to sound smart, but I don't know. But like, I was so in shape. Like my heart was in such good shape from running, because it was just like all cardio, but like you also get strong legs out of it, and then you can finish a 2 fly like it's nobody's business. At the time, it was 2 breasts for me, but then when I stopped running, I mean, I don't know if it's anything to do with that, but college swimming, like what I'm figuring out now is like, I don't really know if we need all of the lifting and the strength and conditioning that a lot of these programs are doing. And I've been educating myself on this, so I feel comfortable talking about it. But like, when we would do like, say, bench press, where in swimming do you ever do this movement? You know, like nowhere.
Not really anywhere.
You never do that movement. So why would I need to be bench pressing, you know? I tried Pilates for the first time after being done swimming. And all of the movements is just like down and like legs and like abs. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like in yoga for swimming. They
I love yoga.
I do too. They seem so minor, but like there's no impact. Like running is good if people can handle it, but some people's bodies just can't handle that impact. And I can't do it anymore because of that. Like I'm just so not used to it. So I don't know. That's part of what I'm trying to figure out with my next steps here is like, if I go to be a strength and conditioning coach for some program, praying that it's all still going to be intact in the next couple of years with all the change that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's something that I would definitely be interested in. But I mean, there's very minimal strength coaches that are going to look at a team and tell you to not, you know, they're not going to tell you to go do yoga at a D1 program. They're not going to want to miss a practice to do something like that. But in a sense, like, you look at some of the best programs, and I don't know a whole lot about, like, you know, Virginia, but whatever they're doing is seemingly working. So, I don't know, it's just, like, stuff to think about. But I loved running. It was a good crossover, but not everybody can do that. Anybody can do yoga. It's hard, but anybody can do something like that. And the benefit is incredible for swimming. So, yeah.
You know, I think more and more now people are coming around to the idea in swimming that, like, there isn't a one-size-fits-all type of thing. And, like, all respect to Brett Hawk, because I think he's done great things in swimming, and I think he does a really good job at bringing up athletes in the sport and, like, showcasing their voices to the world. And he also, like, gave me a hard shout-out at Olympic trials. Like, literally for, like, 10 minutes, had me sit there with him and his buddies and just fully was, like, hyping me up.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, my God. But I think more and more now people are realizing, like, it's not just 70,000 yards a week. I mean, like, Cameron McAvoy won gold in the 50 free, and he himself has said, like, he's not swimming very much.
Yeah.
Compared to when he was swimming, when he made his first Olympic team, like 12 years ago. But I mean, like I remember when I was in high school, like we did yoga, and I was a distance swimmer. But my last season, I started lifting heavily, which was not something that I'd ever really done before. And there's a little tangent here. I like one day in the weight room, we were maxing out, and I got to like 800 on leg press, and my coach looked at me and he's like, "Yeah, you're not even trying." And I'm like, "But I am." And 2 weeks later, I was like, "Okay, screw it," and I used every single 45-pound weight that we had in the room, and I did like, I think it was 1,090 on leg press was my max.
Oh my goodness.
It was absurd. But I did see results in my sprinting that season. Like I went my fastest 100 fly in like 5 years. I went best time my 50 backstroke, like all these little things. But it showed me like there's more than one way to do all of this. But I think it's really interesting. Like I wish more D1 programs would take on yoga or Pilates or just things that are considered unorthodox, because like in some cases they will work out well.
I think people are really stuck on the old school mentality of things. But like you look at a lot of the Olympians now, and like I think, they're just normal people, but they're smart about their training. And everybody experiences burnout, but being the same age as a lot of these people and kind of just like knowing similar people, knowing about people, like they're smart. They know what they're doing, and it's not necessarily because what they're doing is 10 times harder, but it's just smart. Like they have a good coach, a good communication, and open dialogue. Like people know how to figure it out. I never felt like I was one of 80 at Ohio State, and I was very middle tier, kind of a whatever person in like, the coach's eyes maybe, but still cared about, but they don't take feedback from someone like me, until you're doing something that is impressive to people. But I was really good out of high school, so that's why I was like, hello, like, listen to what I'm saying, and it just wasn't in the books, but yeah.
I mean, I think just to hype you up here for a second, I interviewed, her name's Abby Pilkington, I believe I'm pronouncing her last name right. She just graduated from NC State, and I had a lot of conversation with her about, like, she had some things that hampered her college career. It was a different situation for her, but in my opinion, at least, like, each team is only as good as their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th place finisher. Like, at least my coaches did a really good job of, I mean, we had a smaller team, but focusing on what everybody needed and getting that individuality with everybody. But it's something that I think hopefully now colleges are recognizing more, is how important those, like, I guess like Swiss Army knives of people are, where you can put them in a race and trust that like they are going to get like a top 8 finish, or they are going to score some points. I mean, like Cal, sorry, not Virginia. Cal won NCAA title in 2023, and I think they only got 2 individual wins on the men's side. I think they only won 2 events. It was like an individual event and a relay, but they had those people who would get 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I hope colleges start to recognize and realize how important those people are.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's hard when, like, you have so many people on a team to do that. But I would have considered myself someone who, like, you could put me in any event that made sense. If it was backstroke, we're all screwed. But, like, there's a lot of people that on my same level that would have been fine and done well in anywhere. But, like, it was more of just, like, I feel like a lot of what my major at UCLA was about was, like, it's too stressful now. Like, it kind of takes the fun out. And I don't know if this is, like, what a lot of people think, and it might just be me. But it's, like, it's not necessarily fun for everybody anymore when it's, like, if you don't do this, this person's taking your spot, and, like, blah, 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 blah. And they just pin you against people sometimes. And it's like, okay, now this isn't fun. But like, yeah, I mean, I like what you said about how you're only as good as your like fifth tier person. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say for that, but I definitely agree with you on it. I don't want to like hype myself up in that point because I was violently humbled in college swimming. I thought I was a hotshot out of high school, and I got to college, and I was like, I'm nobody. I'm like nobody here. But it was good for me because then I climbed my way back to the top, and then I ended on a really high note, and I'm fine with the way that all played out. So.
I mean, like, I remember a conversation I had with a teammate one time where I want to say he jokingly said it, but he's like, why do we even need our B finalists or our 7th, 8th place finishers? Like, we should just keep the top 3 on the team and that's it. And about a week later was our conference championships, and our women's team was small that year. We had, I think, 7 swimmers competing. And they got second in the conference. I mean, the top team was like 20 people, and they were going to win. But they got second in conference by 6 points over the third place team. And the third place team had, I think, 15, 16 people. And our women's team, every single one of them made finals in all of their events, whether it be a B final or an A final. And every single one of them moved up, like somebody was 9th, they moved up to 8th. So they ensured that they'd get 8th, like that, the lowest amount of points they could get was 8th. And I remember talking to that teammate and being like, see, they would not have done that without those 6th, 7th, 8th place finishers.
Yeah, that's something at Ohio State we always talked about was you don't win an event by getting first.
Yeah.
Like, I think my senior year, 100 fly, Big Ten final, I think we got first and second, which is a little contradictory to what I just said, but we had 4 people in that A final, and there's only 8 spots, so 4 of them are Ohio State. Like, you already won, even if you get 4th through 8, or 5th through 8, like, those... You get more points than anybody if you don't win it. So, yeah. I
mean, there's probably like a million examples, but like the ASU men's team in 2023, they were projected that they could win, and I think they ended up losing by like 50 points. Mm-hmm. But then in 2024, when they had more depth and more people making finals, like getting 5th, 6th, 7th, like it ended up sealing the deal for them that they won it going away by the last day.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of like how valuable those people are in a team who can make those finals and score those points.
Right.
So my last question for you, and this is one that I ask most college athletes just in different forms depending on the person. Like I try to tailor it to the person that I'm talking to. But now that you're 6 months removed from your final collegiate swim, what do you think the lasting effects of the lessons you learned in your swim career will be?
I think there's so many. There's probably so many ways to answer that too. Like, what I would always tell myself is if I didn't have school and I could just focus on swimming, it would be so much better. Not the other way around, but I think now that swimming's done, I have all this energy that I can put into whatever I want to put it into. And it'll be really, really great because you have all this drive and all this grit and all this competition in you that you don't have to put in a sport anymore if you don't want to. You can put it in like your own fitness or your job or your like startup business, something like that. And I also think it's a really, really good metaphor for everything. And like people who don't swim just don't understand that like that is probably hands down one of the hardest sports there is. Like, there's nothing like staring at a black line with your own thoughts for 6 hours a day, while also probably crying in your goggles at the same time and being yelled at. Like, there's nothing that compares to that. You can't stop and walk in the pool. Like, runners can stop and walk. So, I don't really think that there's anything in life that's going to be harder than those times. My dad's a cancer survivor. He's also a swimmer, and he used to tell me, like, there's nothing harder than Christmas break practice, and, like, take it from me, I had cancer, stage 4 colon cancer, so, like, I believe him when he says stuff like that, and even now, if you're going through like a hard time, like, I think about times in swimming, and I'm like, well, this isn't harder than that, so I'm fine. And if I'm just dealing with something really difficult, but I'm sitting in my room and I'm not doing anything physically taxing, like I'm like, I can get through it. Like, I think it just builds so much integrity in a person that it's like there's nothing that you can't figure out. I have a tattoo that says "Find a Way," and it's special to me because like you just figure out how to get through things. Like you just have to find a way to get through stuff sometimes. And a lot of my swimming career was like that because it was just so hard all the time that I was just like, just get through it. And there are some days where you just have to give whatever you have to give. And if that's like, I only have 10% of my maximum today and that's all I'm giving, like, that's fine. At least you were there. Like, one of those days isn't going to hurt you in the long run. It's one of those days out of 5 years of a career, like, it's fine. So, I think it definitely builds a lot of discipline, but what I wrote my capstone on, or one of my papers in UCLA about was, like, people always talk about not being motivated after college swimming to, like, go work out. I never am motivated to go work out, but I do it every single day because I'm disciplined. And that's that same concept of, like, even though you don't want to go, you still go. You still get better just because you're there. And it's just, like, the routine that gets you better. So, like, I think people just take the discipline with them and they just run it as far as they can. So, yeah.
You know, I think, like, having this podcast is, like, an outlet for myself. And just an outlet to, like, meet new people. I mean, like, it's been the coolest thing, I think, about this entire, like, podcast has been, like, most of the people I'm interviewing have been, like, my age, for the most part. Like, most people have been anywhere from, like, 19 to, like, 25. So, like, now when I was at Olympic trials, like, it felt like I was meeting friends because, like, I went out and got lunch with, like, I went out and got, like, boba with, like, Caroline Bentz. Or I saw, like, Jordan Tiffany and his coach, and they came up and said hi to me. Like,
Yeah.
that's been the way for me, at least, that I've channeled, like, my love for swimming and how much I probably would have been very much missing it after I, like, finished swimming. But, oh my God, what was I going to say? I think it's really important to have that outlet of just whatever you can do, like, whether it be pursuing new projects or working out or anything you can do just to channel that energy that went towards swimming for so long into something new. And I mean, I'm channeling it still towards something swimming related, but it's okay.
I mean, in a sense, I will be as well when I figure out my stuff out. So it makes sense. I don't think anybody ever really gets away from it, honestly.
No. I don't think it's possible. I mean, like, I remember, like, 5-6 years ago, people would be like, oh, it's just like an obsession you have right now, like, you'll get over it. And then now here I am in 2024, and I'm like, you were saying?
Yeah. I agree, I get it.
Aislinn, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I'm really glad we were able to set this up. I had a really good time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.